Hey everyone. So, have you ever been tempted to just skip dinner? Maybe to lose a little weight, or maybe you're just crazy busy. It feels like such a simple, easy health hack, but is it actually a good idea? Let's dig in and figure out what the real deal is with skipping dinner.
I mean, it's a super common thought, right? You want to feel a bit lighter, maybe drop a couple of pounds, and just cutting out that last meal of the day seems like the easiest way to do it. But is it really that simple?
I've got a friend, Rohit, who absolutely swears by this. He's always saying, I just feel lighter, and it helps me stay slim. And you know what? On the surface, it sounds pretty smart, but we all know that what works for one person isn't always right for everyone else.
So yeah, that quick fix health hack sounds incredibly tempting. But we need to look beyond just one person's experience and really understand what's actually happening inside our bodies.
Okay, let's be real. Skipping dinner once in a blue moon because you had a huge lunch or you're just not feeling it? Probably not going to be a big deal. But turning it into a regular, everyday habit, well, that's where things can start to get a little risky.
So, what actually happens inside your body on those nights you decide to pass on your evening meal? Let's break down the immediate effects, because they happen faster than you think.
The very first thing you're probably going to notice is your blood sugar taking a nosedive. And you know what that feels like, right? You start feeling tired, maybe a little irritable, okay, maybe a lot irritable, and just completely out of gas. Sound familiar?
And here's where things get really weird and kinda counterintuitive. You'd think skipping a meal means automatic weight loss, right? Wrong. Your body is way smarter than that. When it thinks there's a fuel shortage, it panics and flips into survival mode. It slams the brakes on your metabolism to conserve energy. The ironic result? It can actually make it harder to lose weight.
And oh, we have all been there. When you're starving, your willpower just flies right out the window. Suddenly you're craving those super high-calorie, unhealthy snacks, and you end up grabbing whatever's fast and easy. And just like that, you can totally wipe out any of the benefits you thought you were getting.
And listen, it's not just about calories. For most of us, dinner is where we get a huge chunk of our essential daily nutrients. When you cut that out consistently, you're creating this nutritional gap that can mess with everything from your energy levels to your mood.
Okay, so those are the immediate effects. But what about the long game? What happens when this becomes a habit for weeks, months, or even years? Let's take a look at what the science says.
I want you to just look at this number for a second. 18%. This comes from a major study in Japan, and it represents a significant increase in a pretty surprising health risk. But a risk for what exactly?
So get this. That study found that people who regularly skipped breakfast had an 18% higher risk of bone fractures. Now hold on. I know you're thinking, wait, we're talking about dinner. And you're right, but here's the really critical insight. Our bodies thrive on consistency. The real enemy here isn't one specific meal, it's the chaos. It's any kind of chronic, disorganized eating pattern that can weaken our bodies over time.
And the risks don't just stop at your bones. Other research draws a direct line from disorganized eating habits, like skipping lunch or dinner all the time, to a higher risk of cardiovascular disease and even overall mortality. So yeah, that whole consistency thing, it's a really, really big deal.
So, where does all this leave us? Is skipping dinner healthy, or is it a risky gamble? Well, it turns out the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's all about how you're doing it.
And this is where we have to talk about a really key concept, intermittent fasting, or IF. This is not, I repeat, not the same thing as just randomly skipping meals whenever you feel like it. IF is a structured, intentional plan. It's organized, not chaotic.
And this is really the core of the whole issue. See, skipping dinner can be healthy if it's part of a structured plan, where you're still getting all of your nutrients in earlier in the day. But it becomes risky when it's just chaotic, when it leaves you nutrient deficient, and when it starts messing with your metabolism and blood sugar.
So if you're still considering this, maybe as a form of intermittent fasting, it is absolutely essential that you approach it safely. So let's walk through how to do that.
All right, here is your quick 4-step safety guide. First, your daytime meals become even more important. You've got to pack your breakfast and lunch with tons of nutrition. Second, adopt a real, structured approach. Don't just wing it. Third, hydration is your new best friend. Drink plenty of water to manage hunger. And finally, and this is the most important one, talk to a doctor or a registered dietitian before you make any major changes.
And I really need to hammer this last point home. If you have any pre-existing conditions like weak bones, diabetes, or any risk factors for heart disease, getting medical advice first isn't just a suggestion. It is an absolute necessity.
So, when you boil it all down, the takeaway is crystal clear. The real question isn't if you should skip dinner, but how and why you're doing it. And that brings me to my final question for you. Based on everything we've covered, and thinking about your own body and your own lifestyle, does skipping dinner seem like a healthy habit or a risky gamble for you personally?